What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning on in. Mighty kind of you. Thank you, and subscribe, like, all that jazz. And if you guys like the Tobin and Leroy show, I will be going on vacation next week from the radio show. Unless there is a big orca landed, then I will rappel in from vacation, Stephen A. Smith style. But I will be missing for the next week in action, mostly. I'm sure I'll pop in and out here if there's any big newsy stuff as well. But just wanted to give everybody a heads up. But there's still plenty of content that's up there. A bunch of new episodes up today. YouTube.com/TheTicketMiami. Like and subscribe there. Like and subscribe here. That's where we're at. We're kind of doing like a stock check of where things are at right now. Yesterday was kind of an exciting day. And I just kind of want to see where everything kind of lied after the whole Deandre Ayton thing was going down. It felt like a domino was happening. But it got less exciting as the day ended because he ended up just going back to Phoenix, and it was going to be exciting if he goes to Indiana and Suns are kind of scrambling here and they're trying to figure out what to do. But it does feel like things definitely got more complicated for the Suns yesterday because it's been reported in and out, like how much is Brooklyn really into DeAndre Ayton? How much do they want to invest in him? And I certainly think that there's probably some validity to it, but if you are going to look around and say, what is the best asset that's really been thrown out there, especially between the two teams, I would say, DeAndre Ayton being the size that he is, the pedigree that he is, definitely has the argument for being the best trade piece that was out there in any of these deals, along with bringing him with a Mikal Bridges and, whatever else they're going to throw in there with the picks and all that stuff. So it really did feel like the Suns probably had a leg up on the Miami Heat as far as assets were concerned, especially for direct young talent that they would be able to ship to Brooklyn. And that took a big blow yesterday with the idea that he can't be traded until January now. He has veto power over any trade. Was a bit surprised that they brought him back just because it felt like there was a lot of animosity between the two. And the idea that he is going back there now and probably disgruntled in the way that he is being brought back, wanted to probably go somewhere new where somebody actually did want him, where the Suns are it's like the Indiana Pacers want him, the Suns just don't want to lose him, you know what I mean, for nothing. So that's kind of a rotten situation for DeAndre Ayton, but it felt like, okay, maybe something was happening with the Kevin Durant thing, because we really, until we got the news on DeAndre Ayton, it kind of felt like we were in a holding pattern. And now for the Heat, I guess it seems like the last thing, the thing that you're going to be waiting on from their standpoint of a deal not happening would be if Tyler Herro got an extension. If Tyler Herro got an extension, that would basically signal to everybody that they're out of any negotiations, whether that be with Kevin Durant, whether that be with Kyrie Irving, whether that be with Donovan Mitchell, We'll get to some Kyrie Irving stuff in a second. But nothing as of yet. Like it's been very, very quiet, it feels like, on the Kevin Durant front. There's been some people who have been rumbling this week, Zach Lowe among them, who's like, people are fearful that Miami is going to be in there. Of course, we talked this week about the Sean Marks Andy Ellisburg meeting. There does seem to be a lot of momentum going towards the Heat are going to need some kind of a third team to add to their asset war chest to make this thing happen. Does that mean more picks? I am surprised how many teams are just so crazy with the pick thing as opposed to just getting the best young player. Like with this Donovan Mitchell thing, there's been talks about whether they're interested in RJ Barrett or not interested in RJ Barrett, or whether they prefer Tyler Herro over RJ Barrett. Like they wrote this week in the Salt Lake Tribune, and it was written that there is debate there about whether or not Herro's the better asset. We know that Danny Ainge is a big fan. We know that Tyler has support of a guy like D Wade. I'm sure Fizdale hears all of the rave reviews of Tyler Herro. So to hear that at least one voice in the front office prefers Herro over Barrett is not surprising to me. Herro has been on bigger stages. Didn't have the best playoffs for sure, but has shown in his rookie year how capable he is. Both are super young. Both are 22 years old, and still have a lot of growing to do. Still have a heap of developing that they can do. But I do think that there is some debate there as far as like RJ Barrett, and people like the idea that he's going to grow to be a more versatile defender and all that type of stuff. Knicks fans are certainly very reluctant to give him up and don't want to. If he's not in there, then this just becomes a pick war. Then it doesn't feel like that's one that the Heat are going to win, and you have to weigh like, well, how much is a guy like Tyler Herro worth as far as just getting the talent, as opposed to you're also getting this war chest of picks from your standpoint? Because I think that one of the interesting things that was written about it is they said jokes have been written about the party happy Herro in Utah, but a source with knowledge says that Herro's thinking says he's more optimistic about a potential marriage, especially one where he plays a greater role in Miami. A couple things here. One, I do think it's kind of a bullshit thing to write about Tyler Herro that he's party happy. Just because Tyler Herro is a celebrity in some regards, like he's a social media star in that he has a famous he's famous friends. He was in a Jack Harlow song. All the celebrities really like to see him. He has a girlfriend with millions of followers, so they're like a social media celebrity couple almost. That doesn't mean the dude is party happy. The dude works his ass off. I think that's the thing. Just because he wears crazy outfits and kind of exudes cool, I think it's weird that people always go to the assumption that he is out there partying left and right all night. Certainly, like, listen, Miami is an awesome city, and that kind of just comes with the territory. But his work ethic and his focus on his craft never really been a thing that's been on Tyler Herro. So I thought that was kind of a bullshit thing to see written about him or people making jokes about it. Now, certainly, listen, going from Miami to Utah would be a culture shock. But I've talked about this in a couple episodes or a couple of these videos about the idea of, I don't think it's crazy to think Tyler Herro would be that against going to a place where he can be the guy. This is always going to be Jimmy Butler's team. We see how with Bam, they treat him. They gave him the max contract basically immediately as soon as they could. There were no questions. He's not in every trade rumor. They teach him untouchable. I'm sure if you're Tyler Herro and you think of yourself, we saw, the quotes that his dad had this year to Izzy Gutierrez, where he's like, oh, if they didn't have him, they'd be a 500 team. There is a confidence in his skill set that I think wouldn't hate being away from Miami. I shouldn't say wants to get away from Miami, but I think there is a side of Herro that looks at it and says, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think that he could make a lot of good out of that situation. So right now we're just kind of in this holding pattern of seeing, is there going to be another team that emerges for Kevin Durant? Because if Phoenix's chances are really sunk, there really hasn't been any momentum or mention about any other team. There's been some theorizing about New Orleans, but ever since that they locked up Zion, it feels like that's all kind of quieted and it had cold water thrown on it. Certainly Brandon Ingram is an absolute badass, and if they get somebody like him in a deal, and Durant would be open to going there, which is a big deal, which they just saw was a big deal. I think that a lot of these teams will say, well, it's not a big deal. There's 4 years left. Like, you look at a guy like James Harden, and he got dealt to Brooklyn, and they thought that it was all cinched up. These guys can make a stink year to year and move in a different direction. So I find all of the quiet on Kevin Durant very fascinating because the Heat don't have a lot of national leaks. They kind of lurk in the shadows, and I almost feel like as a Heat fan, you're frustrated because you want details, you want juice, you want all this type of stuff. But I just think that this is going to be a very complex deal at the end of the day, especially when they're not going to be dealing a Bam Adebayo in a trade like this. And for me, hearing a couple of things this week, one, that there hasn't been any real momentum on Kevin Durant other than the Suns package taking a big blow. Two, how aggressive Utah has been in trying to drum up a trade market, trying to drum up, hey, the Knicks, they're giving a ton of picks. The Knicks, they had to back away from a demand of 6 first-round picks. Hey, all the focus is on New York. That, to me, smells like we're trying to see if we can steer Miami more into Donovan Mitchell's direction because there is momentum on the Kevin Durant thing. I could be homerly optimistic, and maybe everybody's thinking you got heat-colored glasses on, and, what are you saying? But I just read that, and I'm just like, well, okay. Where are the two places Kevin Durant wants to go? Phoenix, Miami. Phoenix took a big blow. The two places Donovan Mitchell would definitely want to go, New York, Miami, and a lot of people have said Miami is the number one choice, including Fat Joe. We know what you said, Fat Joe. If Miami is drawing more of their attention to Kevin Durant and looking at Donovan as a fallback, well, how do you get them to panic on that? You say something to the effect of, well, we're going to the New York Knicks. We're gonna do it. We'll do it. And it becomes kind of this game of chicken. The final like interesting piece right now that we're all just waiting on, these things can change minute by minute, day by day, is with Kyrie Irving. I mean, there really hasn't been any news there either in regards to his future of going to the Lakers. But this was interesting. So Kyle Lowry, it was reported by Barry Jackson not too long ago that Kyrie Irving and Kyle Lowry, that deal wouldn't happen, that the Heat had went to Kyle Lowry's camp and that they had said that they were not going to make that deal. Kyle's obviously very close to Jimmy Butler, although Jimmy Butler has said in the past one of the guys that he would love to play with in the league is Kyrie Irving. That was 5 years ago, but he has said it. He has been on record of that with his former Olympic teammate. They sang 1,000 miles together. I mean, like, you don't do that with somebody you hate. There's also, Barry made the point, and I made the point about Mickey Harrison, the organization being very pro-vaccine, and that we know Kyrie Irving's stance. Now, it's Florida. It's not New York. I can't imagine that's ever going to be as big an issue in Miami as it would be playing in New York. And who knows what the rules are. They feel like they change every single week from what people will be allowed to do, not allowed to do, what the protocols will be. Will there be protocols going down the line in the future? But it was reported that the Heat had gone to Kyle Lowry's camp and told him that they are not going to trade him for Kyrie Irving. Frank Isola, who is a New York reporter, he came out and he says that that the Kyle Lowry for Kyrie Irving is not out of the question, that it's still a possibility. And that's an interesting thing for a couple of reasons. Is that a New York report trying to drum up more interest from the Lakers, or not interest from the Lakers, but panic from the Lakers to add more assets, a little sweetener, as we say, on the around these parts? Or is that true? Is it true that the Heat would look at a Kyle Lowry, Kyrie Irving deal just because they don't have to give up Tyler Herro? And that's always been the thing that appealed to me most about Kyrie Irving, is that the Heat could get that deal done and not give up their best young player. That they wouldn't have to give up their best trade asset. They'd still have Tyler Herro to either continue building around Tyler Herro or continue to develop Tyler Herro, or maybe Tyler Herro is then used in another trade. Who knows? But that one appeals to me a lot in just getting Kyrie Irving. And there's one thing that people can talk about Kyrie Irving: weird, eccentric, all this, that, and the other. There's two things that there's a thing that I think will apply to anybody at their profession, and that's a contract year. Like, the reason this all got into the place that it did is the Nets did not compensate Kyrie Irving to the level he wanted to be compensated at. They were not comfortable giving him a long-term deal. Now, the Heat don't have to worry about that right now because he opted into last year of his contract, but they will be getting a guy who would be on there on the final year of his deal. You would think be playing his ass off because he wants to get that full-time commitment to a long-term deal. And I don't think any weirdness or flakiness or even chemistry issues, I don't think I think that the idea that he doesn't have anything long-term past this year, I do think could be a big deterrent from a lot of that stuff you're worried about. Because everybody wants to get paid, right? Everybody wants to be in a situation where they can be comfortable, especially you see what the contracts are in the NBA these days. So if that is true, that Kyrie Irving and Kyle Lowry swap is not off the table, that it's still a possibility, then I'm happy about it. I think that is a great fallback option. I think right now, listen, all of that focus should be on Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a much better player than Kyrie Irving. He's a much better player than Donovan Mitchell. If that is a reality where you could pair Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler, I think you have to exhaust all options to make that happen. But if there is a reality that they could go get Kyrie Irving, if this Kevin Durant thing falls through, if he somehow ends up in another place where they just close up shop on that, we know that they've seemingly do not want to have Kyrie Irving back. And I would absolutely be open to the Miami Heat re-examining that and looking to get back into the game for a potential marriage with Kyrie Irving. I said it before, I'll say it again. The idea of going to get him and not having to give up Tyler Herro is very, very appealing to me. I think it would make the Heat super dangerous. And look, to Kyle Lowry's credit, the dude does look in fantastic shape. I mean, some of the pictures that have come out, we saw this with him at Tahoe, that I was like, man, the guy looks really, really good. He looks in really, really good shape. I mean, seen some of the videos that his trainers put out with him training in the sweatsuit. The Kyle Lowry really looks like he has been busting his ass this summer. So maybe you'll get revenge season Kyle Lowry and he'll be absolutely great. But I do still have hesitation about his age and the idea that he is going to be 37 before the playoffs. I'm worried about that. And I think that, we saw last year that catch up to them with Kyle, with PJ, not really being able to give him much in a game 7. And I think if you could turn back the clock a little bit on some of your key players, I think that'd be a huge thing, not only for the franchise, but for Jimmy Butler. I think that'd be a big deal.